Tonight's claims from the Scottish Labour leader that the First Minister and Nicola Sturgeon should be investigated over failures at the Queen Elizabeth University Hospital in Glasgow. The Health Board has admitted issues with the water system probably caused infections in child cancer patients. We hear from the father of a young woman who died.
Had Molly only had the cancer, and I say only had the cancer to contend with, it was hard enough, but perhaps Molly would be here. And that's a hard thing to take.
Also on tonight's programme.
You've done 4 years, hard work, exams, placements at all different schools, and you just cling on to that hope.
Concerns that newly qualified teachers are spending years on supply lists or leaving the country altogether due to a lack of permanent jobs.
And in sport, there's an anxious wait for leaders' hearts over the fitness of a key player ahead of their weekend's crucial top-of-the-table clash.
And encouraging a love of the written word after research suggests less than a third of children read in their spare time, with boys lagging behind girls. Hello, I'm Laura Miller. This is Reporting Scotland. The Scottish Labour leader is calling for John Swinney and Nicola Sturgeon to be investigated over failures at the Queen Elizabeth University Hospital in Glasgow. It comes after NHS Greater Glasgow and Clyde admitted that issues with the water system probably caused infections in some patients, after years of denying any link. Anna Sarwar says senior hospital figures and government ministers who were in post at the time should feel the force of the law. Both the First Minister and Nicola Sturgeon have so far not responded to this. With more, here's our health correspondent Lisa Summers.
As a teenage cancer patient, Molly Cudahy was one of around 80 children who contracted unusual infections while undergoing treatment.
I will tell the truth.
The whole truth?
The whole truth.
In 2021, she gave evidence to the public inquiry into safety issues at the hospital.
The building itself is sick. That's where you're supposed to go to be made better.
But Molly did not get to witness its conclusion. She died last year.
I'm in no doubt that Molly's quality of life was further eroded as a consequence of the bacteria. Absolutely no doubt. And had Molly only had the cancer, and I say only had the cancer to contend with, it was hard enough, but perhaps Molly would be here. And that's a hard thing to take.
The Queen Elizabeth University Hospital opened in 2015 to much fanfare, a flagship infrastructure project for the government and Glasgow's Health Board. But soon it emerged there were problems with the building's water and ventilation systems. 5 years ago, I reported on the scale of the problems for a BBC documentary. We spoke to families and whistleblowers who tried to raise the alarm.
I don't know who knew what when about the water.
Until this point, the Health Board has denied the building environment was the cause of unusual infections that led to the deaths of some patients. But the board now admits they probably are linked. That's led the Scottish Labour leader to say those who presided over the project should face further scrutiny.
All those that were on the scene at the time, First Minister at the times, Health Secretaries, Finance Secretaries, they all have to be looked at, as well as the leadership of that Health Board at the time, because a devastating cover-up took place which resulted in infection in children and deaths of children. And that, in my view, is criminal and needs an investigation.
The government has been asked for comment on these calls, but earlier today the First Minister said the inquiry would provide answers for families.
And I don't want to prejudge the inquiry. The inquiry is still underway. It's got to come to its conclusions. But from the information that's been published, the evidence has had a significant effect on uncovering the truth as part of this inquiry.
The government's been approached for comment. Separately, NHS Greater Glasgow and Clyde has been named as a suspect in a corporate homicide investigation. It's running alongside the Scottish Hospital's inquiry. Its chair, Lord Brodie, will hear closing submissions from the Health Board tomorrow and from other key participants later in the week.
Well, let's speak to Lisa now. Lisa, you're at the venue in Edinburgh then where the closing submissions of the hospital inquiry will begin tomorrow. With these latest revelations, this is a really big moment for all those involved and one that's been years in the making.
Yeah, it's a really significant week for families, for whistleblowers who've also received an apology from the Health Board, and of course for NHS Greater Glasgow and Clyde. You know, it's been over 6 years since this inquiry was set up. Recently, the Health Board has had a change in leadership, a new chief executive, a new chair. Maybe that signifies a change in direction. And of course, while families have said that they're very welcoming of this admission now by the Health Board that the infections probably did come from the building, they would rather have it happened, many years ago and saved themselves emotional distress. Well, what does it all mean? Of course, we'll hear more about that during the course of the week when people give evidence to the inquiry and when we hear from the likes of the Health Board tomorrow. But it will be, of course, quite a long time before Lord Brodie, the chair of the inquiry, publishes his final report. In the meantime, in the written submissions, the Health Board do say that they believe that the hospital is safe now, and they say there was never any deliberate attempt to hide what was going on from families.
OK, Lisa in Edinburgh, thank you. Some newly qualified teachers are spending years on the supply list, unable to secure permanent jobs, and in some cases leaving the country due to a lack of permanent employment. The latest figures show only around a quarter of those completing their probation moved straight into a permanent role. Teaching unions described it as a national scandal. The Scottish Government says pay rises for teachers is increasing the costs of employing them. With more, here's a reporter, Gillian Sharp.
It takes years of study to become a teacher. After finishing her probation year, Louise Fraser had to move to Dubai when she couldn't find a permanent role here.
It takes a big toll on your mental health. It does. You've done 4 years, hard work, exams, placements at all different schools, and you just cling on to that hope. You send an application out and it just comes back a rejection. I just had emails upon emails, about 20 to 30 rejections just because I wasn't experienced. I just came out my probation period and there was just no available jobs for someone like me.
And others, like this supply teacher who didn't want to be named, have found it impossible to find permanent work.
It is just a week by week rolling contract. So they need me for that week that I work every single week right now, but that could end at any time. I kind of go in every single Monday with the expectation that that could be my last week, and all of those relationships that I've planned with those kids could end. And that's really, really stressful and really, really worrying for me at all times.
The teaching union, the EIS, says Scotland needs more teachers in schools.
Just as teachers struggle when they don't have stability in their professional lives, so do children and young people when they don't have a stable staffing within their schools, and they don't know from 1 week to the next or one term to the next which teacher or teachers are going to be standing in front of them.
The local authority group, COSLA, says it offers permanent employment when permanent vacancies arise.
We do think meeting those demands in terms of the teaching union's expectations on teacher pay was the right thing to do, but it has cost the government in excess of £800 million since 2021. So we recognise that challenge. Teacher numbers across the board since 2014 have increased. They are increasing in the past year alone, thanks to extra funding that we put in last year's budget that was protected for this purpose. And we're working with COSLA on how we can enhance that figure.
And the government says significant action is being taken to make sure teachers can do what they're trained to. Gillian Sharp, reporting Scotland.
The prospects of trade wars, tariffs and talk of retaliation are currently dominating the international news agenda. And the threats by US President Donald Trump to impose import taxes on goods from countries that oppose his plan to take over Greenland have ramifications here and across the whole of the UK. The First Minister has described the threat as completely and utterly unacceptable, while Sir Keir Starmer has warned a trade war is in nobody's interest. Well, our Westminster correspondent Paris Gortsayanas is with us. Paris, just what is the Prime Minister trying to achieve here?
Well, Laura, I think his main aim was just to calm things down a bit. Over the weekend, we had European leaders using words like blackmail and intimidation. And on the American side, we still haven't had a clear rejection of the possibility of using military force in Greenland. The Prime Minister instead was talking about dialogue. And indeed, he was the European leader who delivered the message directly to Donald Trump that threatening allies with tariffs is wrong and that Greenland's sovereignty is non-negotiable. The Prime Minister was effectively doubling down on his existing strategy towards Donald Trump: keep him close, keep talking, and try and change his mind. And that was an approach that's had broad political support.
A trade war is in no one's interest, and my job is always to act in the UK's national interest. That is why yesterday I spoke to President Trump, to European leaders, and to the Secretary-General of NATO.
I'm deeply concerned by what's been set out over the weekend by President Trump. I think it's completely unwarranted and the wrong thing to do. And the suggestion of an increase in tariffs because the President doesn't get his way on the situation in Greenland is completely and utterly unacceptable.
Paris, that's what the First Minister and Prime Minister have been saying. What other developments have there been?
Well, you know, there's just 2 weeks until these tariffs are going to kick in, so we've already had the start of what's likely to be a week of frantic diplomacy. Some of that could happen in person when Donald Trump flies into Switzerland to Davos for the World Economic Forum later on this week. Meanwhile, European leaders are considering whether to hit back with £80 billion worth of their own economic measures against the United States. Fears of an escalation have sent financial markets tumbling today. And remember that there are already 10% Trump tariffs on all UK goods exported to the US. In the whiskey industry alone, that's estimated to be costing businesses £4 million a week and to have cost 1,000 jobs over the past year. Keir Starmer's problem is this: the UK could find itself in the middle of a trade war, even if whether he wants it or not.
OK, Paris at Westminster, thank you. Well, Amy's here with the news at 7 shortly, and you're going to be discussing this on the programme.
Yes, Laura, so we heard just there the political reaction. We're going to be getting some reaction from the Scottish whisky industry itself. We'll be joined by a representative of one of Scotland's distilleries to talk about the fears they have if this 25% tariff would be implemented. So we'll be looking into that. Also on the programme, you mentioned the situation that many newly qualified teachers are finding themselves in at the moment. We're going to be joined by one of the biggest teaching unions to dive into the figures.
Yeah, a lot of response to that one over the course of the day. OK, Amy, thank you. To some of the day's other stories now. And the former SNP Chief Executive Peter Murrell is due to make a second court appearance next month after being charged with embezzlement. The Crown Office has announced that the case will call at the High Court in Glasgow on the 20th of February. The 61-year-old has yet to enter a plea to the charges, which will be made public at the hearing for the first time. Police Scotland launched Operation Branchform, its investigation into the SNP's funding and finances, in July 2021. More than 400 staff at Strathclyde University in Glasgow, including technicians and security staff, are voting on whether to strike over job cuts. Unite Union says the university has failed to consult unions and rule out compulsory redundancies. Strathclyde said last month it planned to cut almost 80 jobs to try to save £35 million. The ballot will run until next month. And councillors are set to vote on whether to push back the closure of Scotland's only school of sporting excellence to 2029 so current pupils can finish their education. Glasgow Life initially proposed shutting Glasgow School of Sport at Bellahouston Academy this June due to funding problems. Students are selected from across the country based on their abilities in athletics, badminton, gymnastics, hockey and swimming. Now, safety concerns have been raised after a report found more than 200 bridges in Aberdeenshire need repairs, restoration or major refurbishment. Residents in one village say the closure of a lifeline bridge has had far-reaching consequences. Louise Hosey reports.
For over 2 years, this bridge in Aboyne has been closed to vehicles. It's still not reopened, repairs put on hold by the council after it emerged its condition was worse than first thought. Villagers say it's left them in limbo and a community effectively split in two.
So I've got chronic fatigue syndrome, so I've got limited energy. With the bridge closed, I can drive down here, but I can't walk to the shops. I can't walk to the doctors.
We have spent fortune in petrol, just relocating the car as and when we need, and yeah, it's just a bit of a joke, really.
We've had ambulances arriving on the wrong side of the bridge. We've had older people who've lost their social networks, so they're not able to catch up with friends, and that's a huge thing for people.
Businesses are also affected.
The direct impact is mostly down to the employees. They have to inevitably go around the diversion. Initially it was an inconvenience, But now, after 26, 27 months, it's beginning to wear a wee bit thin.
This bridge is one of many across Aberdeenshire in urgent need of work. Now a report going before councillors later this week highlights the scale of the issue. More than 200 bridges need repairs, restoration or major refurbishments in the short term. The ability of bridges to safely carry abnormal loads is already severely compromised, and a lack of funding means only immediate repairs can take place, bringing a potential risk to bridge safety in the long term. Last year, this former railway bridge in Murray, known as the Spey Viaduct, collapsed. Murray Council said further detailed inspections would be taking place. Aberdeenshire Council said no one would be available for interview until after Thursday's meeting. The Scottish Government said it had allocated £665 million of funding to Aberdeenshire Council in the budget, and it was up to local authorities to decide how to manage infrastructure. Louise Hosey, reporting Scotland, Aboyne.
Football fans could be allowed to buy alcohol at a Scotland match later this year as part of a pilot scheme. The Scottish FA has confirmed the trial could take place during one of the national team's friendly matches in March or June ahead of the World Cup. Fans would be allowed to buy alcohol in the stadium concourse but wouldn't be able to take drinks back to their seats. The plans emerged as a new report commissioned by the SFA and other governing bodies shows Scottish football is worth £840 million a year to the Scottish economy. The findings, compiled by Strathclyde University, also show the game is responsible for more than 14,000 jobs.
We knew that it was a significant amount. We knew there was significant impact on the Scottish economy because of the, particularly when I talk about national team games at Hampden, we see Hampden sold out more often than not. There's, supporters coming in from all areas, predominantly Europe, to get to matches. So we weren't surprised by them. We knew it was a significant impact, and it's good to be able to quantify that.
And that takes us nicely to tonight's sport with Jane. Hello.
Hello there, good evening to you. Hearts are sweating on the results of a scan on captain Lawrence Shankland after he was subbed off in their Scottish Cup exit to Falkirk, with head coach Derek McInnes all but ruling him out of Sunday's table-topping league clash with Celtic. Well, Shankland, who has scored 15 goals for Hearts this season, had equalised to take Saturday's cup tie into extra time, but he pulled up before the spot kicks, appearing to signal a hamstring injury, and was substituted. Falkirk booked their place in the next round by scoring all 5 of their penalties, leaving Hearts to focus on their league title bid.
Shankland's a key player because of the captain and the goals that he can score and his experience in leading the front line. So I think Derek will be praying that the injury's not too bad, but if they are out, it's two important players for them. They've shown such consistency in the league, 2 defeats. When they've had a defeat, they've always bounced back. So I think Derek's got a strong squad there. You can see the atmosphere at Tynecastle. You can see the anticipation that the supporters have got now, and I think they really believe that they can win the league.
So Falkirk through to the 5th round of the Scottish Cup, and they'll make the short trip to League One leader Stenhousemuir. Elsewhere, defending champions Aberdeen take on fellow top-flight side Motherwell. Airdrieonians host St Mirren. Spartans visit Tannadice to take on Dundee United. There's a Fife derby at East End Park as Dunfermline, who knocked out Hibernian, play Kelty Hearts. The winners of Stranraer and Queen's Park will play Rangers at Ibrox. There's an all-Premiership tie between Celtic and Dundee, and Partick Thistle head north to face Elgin City. Now, Scotland have confirmed the dates and opponents of 2 home friendlies before the World Cup. Japan will come to Hampden on the 28th of March before Steve Clarke's side take on the Caribbean nation Curaçao on the 30th of May. The Scots will play 2 other friendlies away from home before the tournament, with details of those still to be confirmed. Well, Morocco are one of Scotland's World Cup opponents, and they were embroiled in an ugly AFCON final, eventually losing to Senegal. The Senegalese head coach asked his players to leave the pitch in protest at a late penalty awarded for Morocco. Well, that led to outbreaks of violence in the stands. When play resumed, Brahim Diaz dinked his effort straight into the goalkeeper's arms. Senegal then found a winner in extra time, but the occasion was completely overshadowed by events off the pitch. To rugby, and Glasgow Warriors head coach says he's proud to lead a side who have stunned some of Europe's top clubs to ease into the last 16 of the Champions Cup. Well, last night's victory over Saracens saw them finish top of their group. That win against the English heavyweights was Glasgow's 4th successive bonus point victory. The reward for topping Pool A is a home tie against South African outfit Bulls in April. Edinburgh will play Leinster in the knockouts, progressing despite losing to Bath in their final pool match. Well, former Scotland international Andy Nicol, who won the European Cup with Bath, says Glasgow have put themselves in a great position.
They're scoring tries from fun and scoring brilliant tries. So, Bordeaux are the only side ranked above us now, and they're the reigning European champions. So you've got to say Glasgow are right in the mix with the draw now, because the second seed gives the home advantage as long as they stay in the tournament to the final, which would be incredible, and that is a massive advantage.
Well, to tennis, and Jacob Fairley says he won't lose any sleep over his first-round exit at the Australian Open, with the Scot set to drop out of the world's top 100. Fairley, who's enjoyed a rise up the rankings in the last 2 years, hauled himself back into his match against Poland's Kamil Majcik, winning the third set after losing the first 2. But Majcik closed out the win in a fourth-round tiebreak to progress to the second rounds. Finally, John Higgins admits he was well below his best in the final of snooker's Masters at London's Alexandra Palace. The Scot lost 10-6 to England's Kyron Wilson in a less than classic encounter. Higgins got off to a good start by winning the opening frame, but Wilson then went on to dominate the match as he won his first Masters title. Higgins says despite enjoying the occasion, he didn't enjoy the snooker he was playing.
The crowd were fantastic. The entrance in tonight, it was one of the best experiences I've had as a snooker player. The conditions were absolutely fantastic as well, but I was just useless.
Oh, poor old John. An honest assessment, it has to be said.
Absolutely, I'm sure it's not quite true. Thank you, Jane. Now, with so many things vying for their attention nowadays, from tablets to social media and much more, it is perhaps harder than ever for children to get lost in the world of a good book. Well, some of Scotland's leading authors came together today to urge more kids to take up reading as a hobby. Stephen Gordon has more.
Well, that's pretty much Nasha.
A cartoon hero with a taste for mischief granted an audience with royalty. Queen Camilla's attempts at drawing Nasher from the Beano, part of the effort to get kids reading. Her classmates for the day, pupils from Edinburgh primary schools.
There's multiple books I like to read, but one of them is Harry Potter. I have a lot of books in my house, but I don't really read them because I used to read when I was younger.
If you liked reading when you were younger, what's changed as you've got a wee bit older?
It's because I'm into some different stuff, and I still like reading, but not as much as I was younger.
And that's the challenge, with research suggesting just 3 in 10 young Scots say they enjoy reading.
I really worry for the children and the young people of today, because reading is the best friend you can find. It's a friend you don't lose, it's a friend you don't fall out with. And if you can develop a love of reading when you're younger, it provides you with a tiny little magic key that opens just about any door.
The National Year of Reading was launched at Scotland's National Library, an inspirational venue for some of the country's most celebrated writers who want to pass the torch.
It's about tempting people, making sure they know that there's something out there that could draw them in, that will attract their attention and keep them drawn in. With kids, it's finding out what they're interested in and saying, I know a really good book about that.
I do stuff sometimes in prisons with prisoners who have got very limited reading skills. But if you find them something they like, something they enjoy, something that they think is relevant to them, they'll read. And the same goes with homeless people. People of all ages can be drawn into this. So it's not just about kids, it's about anybody and everybody can become a reader.
A message those involved in the campaign hope is read and understood. Stephen Gordon reporting Scotland.
Okay, Christopher is here with the weather. Beautiful picture there.
Yes. Can you see Stirling Castle? Just about make it out there.
Lovely, yeah.
In amongst the trees.
I fear there might be some rain coming over those hills there.
You're right. There was rain on the west coast and the east coast down the spine of the country is where the best of the sunshine was. Laura, thanks very much indeed. Very good evening to you. We've got a mixed picture through the course of this week, with some cloud and some outbreaks of rain around. This is why we've got low pressure nearby, and you can see we've got weather fronts and rain spreading their way northwards. And some of that rain will be persistent at times in the northeast. But before we get there, let's talk about the here and now. We've got cloud and rain still with us on the west coast, cloudier skies in the east, some clear skies initially in the far north, and then overnight through the early hours, cloud for all with some outbreaks of rain, where we hold on to the clear skies in the north, though sub-zero with a frost. Tomorrow's an improving picture. It starts off cloudy and damp, but it should improve to bright, if not sunny skies as we head into lunchtime and the afternoon. But the winds coming in from the south-southeast will be picking up, and that'll feed in some cloud in the northeast. And in the southwest, outbreaks of rain pushing in towards the Rins of Galloway, Dumfries and Galloway, and up towards parts of Kintyre and Arran. Elsewhere, dry with some brighter skies. There's the cloud in the northeast, same too across the Northern Isles, driven in on those southeasterly winds. Temperatures not too bad, but a little bit cool in and around Inverness. Tomorrow evening, still some rather wet and windy fare in the southwest, working its way northwards. That takes us to midweek, and we've got low pressure nearby, but notice the winds now coming in off the North Sea, and we'll just see outbreaks of rain continuing to pile up across parts of the northeast. That's why we have a Met Office yellow warning in force from midday Wednesday right through to midday on Friday. The rain will come and go on and off, but certainly across the northeast, the numbers really will mount up. We could see some localised flooding. Elsewhere on Wednesday, brightest conditions on the west, rain and cloud in the south, and rather windy for all. And then beyond that, towards the end of the week, with those east winds, we start to drag in some rather chilly air from the near continent and actually from Russia. So temperatures will be taking a dip into the weekend. Laura.
OK, thank you, Christopher. Now, tonight's main news again. Scottish Labour claim the First Minister and Nicola Sturgeon should be investigated over failures at the Queen Elizabeth University Hospital in Glasgow after the Health Board admitted issues with the water system probably caused infections in child cancer patients. Concerns that newly qualified teachers are spending years on supply lists or leaving the country altogether due to a lack of permanent jobs. And that is Reporting Scotland for now. I'll have your late news at 10:30. Until then, from everyone in the team, enjoy your evening. Good night.